Welcome, everyone, to this session of Administrator Issues and Updates on February 25th, 2025. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please do us a favor and call the roll?
Yes, Chair Roberts, thank you. First, Commissioner Fireside is out of the office today. Commissioner Schrader is on her way, but not here yet. Joining you online, Commissioner West. Are you here?
I am here, thank you.
Thank you. So roll call, Commissioner West is here. In the room, Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Roberts.
Here.
Thank you. You do have a quorum present. There's 3 of you here. Two in person, 1 online. Yes.
Great. Thank you, Gary. Would you please introduce the first agenda item for us?
Yes, thank you. First are several legislative updates from Public and Government Affairs. First is a request for support of a House bill for funding for victims of crime that impacts our Family Justice Center. Per our protocol, PGA presents the item. However, we do have the sheriff and the district attorney in the room should you have further questions. But as protocol, PGA does this. So Tonya Holowetsky, Director of Public and Government Affairs, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. PGA is here this morning to ask for your support for House Bill 3196, which provides an appropriation of state funds to replace potential reductions in federal grants used by Family Justice Center partners. The Clackamas County Sheriff's and District Attorney's offices both support HB 3196 to help maintain funding for community partners providing critical services to domestic violence survivors at a Safe Place Family Justice Center in Clackamas County. Both offices consider this bill to be urgent legislation to ensure the preservation of public health and safety. Since 2013, the center has served 7,000 survivors. It houses 11 on-site public and non-public partners to provide services to survivors and their children free of charge. In 2024, Oregon received a reduction, a 42% reduction in federal funding from the Victims of Crime Act VOCA grant due to a decrease in federal deposits. And Congress is working toward a long-term solution, but it will take several years to resolve this issue. HB 3196 would provide additional state funding to the Oregon Department of Justice to offset these cuts in available VOCA grant funding. The bill had a public hearing on February 6th and a work session on February 20th, where it passed unanimously out of committee and was referred to the Joint Committee on Ways and Means. So PGA recommends the board support HB 3196 and welcoming any questions or comments.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, thanks for this. It'd be nice if the bill was included in the pack, at least the current writing of the bill in these things when these come to us, just to make it easier so I don't have to hunt back and forth.
It is included.
I believe it was
Commissioner.
included.
It's not on my,
It's online, Andrew.
I mean, I'm on live right now. All I have is the, there's no hot link to the bill. All there is the presentation.
Okay, Andrew, can you answer that?
Commissioner, we'll provide you a copy very quickly here. And also, can we just have you speak or perhaps pull your mic closer to you? Having trouble hearing you in the back of the room.
Is it online, Andrew?
Yes.
It is posted online. Okay.
So where is it then? Oh, never mind. We'll just deal about that later.
Right.
Let's just,
Yep.
yeah, I don't want to get down in the details. Anyhow, so this is strictly funding?
That is my
This
understanding.
is a funding thing only, okay. So I know there's a lot of bills out there, and I just want to make sure. And do we, instead of percentages, do we know what the actual dollar amount is that's in jeopardy?
I don't know the answer to that, but maybe our colleagues from the Sheriff's Office or District Attorney's Office may know that.
Okay, thank you.
I can help with that one.
Go ahead.
All right, so I do not know the,
Introduce yourself.
sorry, Trent Wilson, Public and Government Affairs Manager. I do not know the amount that is in jeopardy, but since our memo was published over the weekend, an amendment has been published with new information about the numbers being requested in the bill. So those numbers are $18.5 million to backfill the program, the VOCA program, and then an additional $3 million named in the bill that would go specifically to CASA. So those are the numbers that have since been updated in an amendment, a proposed amendment to the bill that was posted after we published the materials.
Yeah, I have no problem supporting it. I just want to kind of understand maybe how why we are always faced with these things. Was it designed to be temporary funding? And it's a cliff, not a bridge, or what? I mean, what changed? I don't understand all this. I see what's in the packet. I don't have the bill, but they got the packet piece, the one pager. But I'm just trying to understand if it's been around since, if I'm reading this right, for all this time, what's changed, or why is it not stable, the funding?
I would be guessing if I were to answer that with certainty, so I don't want to do that. We can get that information to you here
Can we ask the
soon.
district attorney, VOCA, how frequently is VOCA? Is it an annual grant? Is it, you have to apply for, can someone please come up?
Yeah, I was hoping that perhaps we have the DA Wentworth, Sheriff Brandenburg. Also, we have Melissa Earlbaum from Clackamas Women's Services. And I think what would be also helpful, as you guys come up and introduce yourself, is if the funding is not available, how will it impact services? I think if you could also kind of talk about that, it'd help us understand the impact. So, good morning, you two.
Good morning, thank you. I'll let Executive Director Earlbaum answer Commissioner Savas's question directly.
Commissioner Savas, the answer to that question is VOCA is renewed on a biennium basis, so it's funded through the United States Congress, passed through to the various states across the country, and then to victim service providers in public safety, criminal justice, and nonprofits. What's happened with the fund over time is it's built on fines and fees at a federal level, and so as those have decreased, during COVID, there was delays in moving forward on trials, things like that. And these are primarily fines and fees that are collected from large corporate, large corporations when there's a federal crime and they're made to pay some sort of dues and fees, and then that money's distributed out to victim services. And so over time, that fund has started to diminish at a congressional level. In Oregon, what we have seen is the Department of Justice has made changes to the way their grant funds work, so it's strictly non-competitive, going to the programs doing direct services on the ground, and shored up all of the work that they can do to make sure that the cuts are not significantly impacting programs. And now we're at a point where it's at that core service level that we're talking about funding. So the state has actually backfilled VOCA for a number of years, and they're looking at doing it again as the federal fix occurs. And that federal fix also needs support. In fact, we'll be in DC next week lobbying for that federal fix, and that's going to change the way fines and fees are collected and distributed.
So it's not fines and fees that are specific to domestic violence, it's fines and fees in general, in the whole
Correct.
broad sense, okay?
Yeah, and
Thank
it
you.
funds child abuse services, trafficking services, domestic and sexual violence services.
Great, thanks.
Great. Any other questions? See anything from Ben? Well, thank you very much. I think I want to extend, I see staff from FJC in the back, a safe place, and just want to thank the partnership that the DA's office, Clackamas Women's Services have, a lot of the other nonprofits that are there. It really is a coordinated community response to family violence issues, and just want to say a big thanks to staff in the back and both of you for the great work you do in that area. So it's very meaningful, impacts a lot of lives, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed and keep rallying to get funds to help support it. So thank you both.
Thank you. I would like to add that one of the things that we collectively, as the executive body of the Family Justice Center, have recognized is we need to do a better job about communicating to the board about how things are going at the Family Justice Center. We don't like springing, hey, we have financial concerns, for example, on the board. So we're going to make a commitment to communicate the good and the bad more frequently throughout the year.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And if, do any of my colleagues have any other questions?
Chair,
Yes.
my hand is raised. I don't know if anybody's noticed.
Sorry,
Oh, I'm
Commissioner
sorry,
West.
Ben.
Yeah.
I didn't see you. Go ahead, Ben.
I appreciate that, Chair. Sorry to jump in and interrupt. I didn't know if they had seen my hand raised. Thank you for this presentation. I'm kind of curious about the lobbying being done next week. I think this is an important issue, and we've done really great work in this space in Clackamas County. I know that we have looked at best practices, we've implemented those best practices, and so I'm really proud of the work that we've done in this space. I think this legislation at all levels is important. it's unfortunate the states had to backfill it so much and to keep it going. We're all here in DC. I'm in DC right now. I know we're gonna probably need bipartisan support as we go into reconciliation and just the realities of what's going on here in the legislature. I want to let you guys know I'm available to help any way I can to lobby for this during the week while you guys are up here doing that. And if there's any way we can work together to get that bipartisan support and make sure it's a priority for both parties and make sure it's on the radar. I think that that's important. We do need our federal partners to step up and to take care of this population and make sure that these victims are getting the care that they deserve and need.
Thank you, Commissioner. And looking around to see if there's any other questions. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I move to, I guess, I didn't know we were going to make a motion on this, but move to direct staff to support the bill,
I'll
HB
second.
3196.
All right. Commissioner Savas has moved to support House Bill 3196. Commissioner West has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And Gary, what's next? Thank you both for coming.
Thank you. Next is another legislative request. This is congressionally directed spending, letters of support. Tony Holowetsky, PGA Director, and Trent Wilson, Government Affairs Manager, will present. Go ahead.
Thank you. So yes, we're here to ask for your approval for 4 letters of support for congressionally directed spending requested by some of our community partners. The 4 community partners are listed in the memo along with what the request is, and I'll just briefly mention each one. So the City of Tualatin seeks funding for the construction phase of the 65th and Borland Intersection Improvement Project. Construction includes the addition of a northbound right turn lane for traffic turning from 65th onto Borland and other improvements for traffic safety and more efficient use of the intersection. The second is from Hoodland Fire District number 74. They are seeking CDS funding to supplement a May 2025 bond measure to design and build a new fire station. The facility will include many features, but most importantly, it will include also a U.S. Forest Service wildland fire operations integration, which is first of its kind interagency collaboration. And the facility will be secure in a prime location and secured at no cost through an agreement with Clackamas County. The third partner is Oregon Institute of Technology, and they are seeking funding to develop leading-edge capabilities in research, education, and training in hydrogen production, solar and solar thermal technologies, and emerging battery technology. Their proposal will advance technologies related to long-term duration energy storage as well. This initiative will be located at Oregon Tech's Portland Metro and Klamath Fall campuses. And the final partner is Proud Ground, and they are looking to implement a community land trust to acquire the scattered sites that the Housing Authority of Clackamas County is preparing for disposition and make any necessary repairs to these properties to make them mortgage ready and become permanently affordable housing for first-time home buyers. And the Housing Authority of Clackamas County will likely provide bridge funding for the Proud Ground to acquire the homes, with the specifics of the bridge funding to be determined. So PGA is recommending the board approve the 4 attached letters of support for congressionally directed spending that has been requested by our community partners.
Great, thank you. Colleagues, I see Commissioner Savas, you have a question?
Yeah, on the last one, the Community Land Trust, I just want to clarify a reminder, and maybe, hopefully there's staff in the room that can answer it. I don't want to put you all on the spot if you don't have that. But I know that we've got a strategy to deal with the disposition of the 145 units, but my understanding is not all to be through land trust opportunities. So I was trying to understand, part of that was developing revenue to build more housing in our portfolio. So is there someone in the room that can help me break down that understanding of how many of the 145 units will be part of this land trust? Yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the question. Shannon Callahan, the Director of Housing and Community Development Division, as well as the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. Commissioner Salvis, you are correct. We are in the process of moving forward with the disposition of 145 scattered site homes. As part of that disposition, we are required by HUD to sell those homes for fair market value. So we will be proceeding with plans as approved by this board, and we'll be coming back to you in the month of April, actually, to talk about the home ownership program, which you directed us to pursue. So we are looking for opportunities to both receive the fair market value for the homes that we are selling in accordance with HUD regulations, and also so that we have funds to invest in future affordable housing. And we're looking at opportunities to make sure that these important assets can be used for the highest and best use in the community. One of those, as this board has directed, is affordable homeownership. And so we have released a request for expressions of interest regarding homeownership partners, and we are in the final phases of working to select 4 of those partners, Proud Ground being one of them. And so anticipating that they will need resources to help bring down the cost of the homes from fair market value to make them affordable to first-time home buyers and put them into a permanent land trust is why Proud Ground is bringing this request forward.
Okay. So just to clarify, whether it is the property, a particular property goes to a land trust or not, we still be able to meet the requirements for selling the property at fair market value and be able to direct those funds towards building our portfolio of new affordable housing units in more of a condensed fashion or higher density fashion. So what do we, I know it's a rough question, but just anticipation, how many of the 145 units, how many do you think will actually, or is there a goal? I forgot, I thought we discussed that as a board, maybe we didn't, and I'm looking forward to April when you lay that out, but.
It was a 3-part that was presented to this board. One was looking at recovery-oriented infrastructure. The second was looking at home ownership, and then fair market value sales through a broker. And we had originally suggested 25 homes through the affordable homeownership model. And my understanding is that this board asked us to do everything we could to go further than that. Right now, we're looking at hopefully around 70 of those homes to go into the hands of low-income first-time home buyers. So we're being very aggressive with resources, both through the state and through other resources that the state is offering to Clackamas County, which is in the form of community development block grants. So right now we're looking at about 70 homes for homeownership.
Okay, thank you for this. I mean, I think it's important to say this and get it on the record because one might read this and assume that we're going to put all 145 units in the land trust, and I know that would take a long time to meet our goals. So I appreciate getting this on record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, colleagues, any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 4 letters.
Chair, I move we approve the 4 provided letters of support for congressionally directed spending applications.
Second.
All right. Commissioner Salvis has moved to approve the provided letters of support of congressional directed spending applications. It's been seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please do us a favor and call the poll?
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. And
Thank
Gary,
you.
thank you. Gary, what's up next for us?
Thank you, Chair. Next is a Metro Supportive Housing Services Data Sharing Agreement update. Mary Rumbaugh, Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services, and Shannon Callahan, if you want Shannon, please come back, Housing and Community Services Division Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services. This is a verbal update only. Go ahead, please.
Correct. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. So we wanted to give you all a quick update on the data sharing agreement in advance of Metro Council meeting this coming Thursday, in which Metro staff and our staff from all three counties will be discussing this. So I am pleased to report that Metro and all three counties have collaborated to reach a final agreement on the data sharing agreement. This agreement will provide Metro with participant-level disaggregated data for SHS-funded programs, including but not limited to the permanent supported housing, rapid rehousing, shelter, and eviction prevention. The data sharing agreement will support Metro in conducting data validation, analysis, and evaluation. We, Clackamas County, will continue to provide detailed data reports on an annual and quarterly basis containing robust population and program data. And upon the conclusion of Metro's approval of the data sharing agreement for all three counties, we will then be coming back to this board for approval of the data sharing agreement, date yet to be determined, but we will move swiftly once Metro's approval has come through.
Great, thank you. I see Gary.
Commissioner West has his hand raised.
All right, Commissioner West.
Thank you for that. I'm a couple questions. One, I'm going to opine for a minute, and then I'm going to follow up with a question. When the voters passed the SHS Supportive Housing Service, that's what SHS stands for, Supportive Housing Service Tax, 4 or 5 years ago, it was campaigned that there would be annual audits, that there would be oversight, that there would be a lot of transparency and accountability. We're now 4 or 5 years in this, and Metro's done maybe one perfunctory kind of audit, but there has not been robust audits. Often we're told that there's a data issue. We still don't know. We're providing, I know, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe in Clackamas County, we've been providing data quarterly and annually, detailed information about the successes and about the people that we're working with, not all successes, but like just the data, the information necessary for accountability. It feels like we don't know exactly where this data is going. We're not quite sure what it's being measured up against, where's the accountability, and then we have the recent news last Friday from Multnomah County that they are $100 million plus dollars in the arrears with their funding. A lot of people are wondering, where did the money go? And this is a big discussion right now in the Supportive Housing Service Work Group that I'm chairing with President Peterson. We had our first meeting yesterday. I'm kind of wondering what the barriers are and what is the purpose and why is it taking us 5 years to get to this point, halfway through this 10-year tax measure? And how does the data that we're submitting benefit the region in Clackamas County? And do we know that the data will be correctly used and put forward in a way that is truthful and accurate? And are we getting any closer to using this data to bring accountability to this, to the supportive housing services? I don't know if you guys can speak to that, but that's been some concerns I have currently.
So I am going to turn sort of this over to Shannon Callahan, Director of Housing Community Development Division, but I really do want to go on the record to say that Clackamas County has been 100% in compliance to reporting. So what I'm hearing, Commissioner West, you say is really it's less about our accountability, it's really about Metro's accountability. So I just want to go on record stating that because I think that there's been some misinformation out there about our compliance. But I would turn it over to Shannon to sort of maybe opine as well. Your thoughts.
Really quick, it is my understanding also that Clackamas County has done an exceptional job providing data, and we've taken that seriously from day one. There's some breakdown happening, and here we are 5 years into this. And so Shannon, I look forward to your comments and helping illuminate this, but I am concerned that as we lack voter trust right now, and we don't have accountability, and it's not, and we're all in this together at the end of the day. This is a regional effort to tackle this problem. This data agreement is a little boring, it's a little snoozy, but it's very important, and it's been, I mean, we need to pay attention to this. So yeah, I'll stop opining, but Shannon, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner West. I think one of the things that I heard you say and ask is, why did this take so long? And as well, do we have the opportunity to validate the data and the analysis that we're sending to Metro under this agreement? And I would first echo what Director Rumbaugh just said, which is Clackamas has provided robust and detailed data and financial reports on a quarterly and annual basis. Our last report was over 130 pages long with detailed information, which is available on our website for the public or anyone to review. It's the third of such annual reports, as we're in our fourth year of SHS implementation. What I will say is the data sharing agreement, the majority of the provisions were negotiated some time ago. And unfortunately, there was one provision which allowed the counties to review an independent analysis that Metro would make of our data before a public release. And that was a really hard concept for Metro to understand, as well as for us to work on shared language about. And so what we do have is a full understanding that Metro has the right to this disaggregated data, and we are happy to be sharing that with them. But before they make an independent analysis of the data, we asked for just a reasonable opportunity to ensure they're not missing anything. And so within this agreement is contained what generally is 10 business days or as quick as 2 business days. Now, this is only when they're publicly releasing data, right? We want to make sure that the public doesn't get confused when it comes to differing information. And as we talk about homeless and housing systems, it's really important that we're consistent, clear, and transparent with our outcomes and who we're serving. So, Commissioner West, I hope that answers your questions, and I'm happy.
It gets to some of it, but here's also some of my concern. Multnomah County has provided really limited and sparse data, and from what I've been told by Metro. Metro has told me they've had real issues getting legitimate and thorough and complete and robust data from Multnomah County. There's a number of things not being answered. It feels like that Multnomah County is a little bit in the dark. We keep being told that their numbers coming out are imminent. That's what they said in December. They've said this for months and months. We're 5 years into this. And then now they're saying it's going to be till the spring. I don't know where Washington County is or the other counties, but this is a regional effort, right? This is not Clackamas County alone. This is not Portland alone. This is a regional lift that's that is a little precarious right now. And we got to right the ship on this. But this data for accountability, in my opinion, is absolutely necessary so that we can be better at building public trust and helping people that are suffering on our streets. And so where is everyone else at on this? And then are we going to be another 6 months before we actually see anything? I just recently called last night publicly in the SHS meeting last night, work group, for an actual full forensic and performance audit, not maybe on Metro. I'm fine if they do it on Clackamas County. I think we would be fine to open up our books and to be transparent. But we can't. We got to right this ship, and I need to understand how our partners, where they're at with this, and then what, right? We have been 5 years in this. We're just now doing this. The voters got to have a better understanding where we're at, and I don't know if you can speak to that.
Commissioner West, thank you for the question. What I will say is I and we at the Housing and Community Development Division fundamentally agree with everything you said about transparency and accountability. We would welcome a performance audit. I think a performance audit is also an opportunity to critically look at our programs for ways that we can improve, which is what our goal is as offering public service and as public servants. What I can tell you is that the development of the data sharing agreement has truly been a collaborative effort of all 3 counties and Metro. We did get stalled for a short period of time, but we re-engaged. shortly before the end of the year and moved aggressively forward. And we in Clackamas County are committed to sharing our data as fully and expediently as we can and working to support our other county partners and collaborate fully with Metro.
One last question for you, and I'll yield back, is do you see value, since we can't figure out why Metro hasn't kept its obligation to the measure and the IGA around auditing and transparency? We have chronic shortfalls in budgets across the region, and one that is catastrophic that was just surprised and kind of shocked the region with Chair Jessica Vega Peterson's announcement on Friday. Would it be beneficial just to continue to show Clackamas County residents and constituents that we are going to abide by this agreement and transparency to do our own performance audit on supportive housing services and how we spent the money? Because I think we are at threat of losing these resources in a short period of time if we don't right this ship. And I think that Clackamas County, in many ways, we've been kind of actually the bright spot and, like I call, a little pocket of excellence in an area where we haven't seen enough good performance. Is there a space for us to lead the way and say Metro's not doing it, but we sure are going to still live up by what the voters expected, and to do the performance audit internally in Clackamas County and maybe lead by example?
Commissioner West, I think that's an excellent suggestion, and we'd be happy to collaborate with that audit process or being the first to step forward as you make headway on the president's work group with Metro to say that we would be the first to go under a performance audit in collaboration with Metro. So we would support that in any incarnation that this board wanted to move in.
And just one last thing is, I am incredibly proud, Director Ramba, of you and your team and the work that you've done to support us in this. As I look across the region, we are incredibly grateful to have you and your support and your expertise. You guys have been phenomenal, and I am honored to be able to partner with you in this. I just, along with you guys, want more people to get the vital care they need to be healed and made whole and to find self-sufficiency. And so thank you for this effort and the work we do. I know it's a hard topic, and thank you for answering my questions today.
Great, thanks, Commissioner West. Commissioner Savas, you have a comment or question?
Thank you. So if you'll indulge me a little bit, I always get a little bit passionate about this topic. Commissioner Schrader and I have been through this long haul since the measure was passed, and we have been politically attacked with false data, let alone real data, not only us as a board, but our staff as well. And I think a lot of us have those painful memories. So and Commissioner West, I appreciate your work on this, and Chair Roberts on this new committee, and your fortitude to stand in this space, knowing that there can be a lot of articles probably coming out and a lot of spins where the narrative is being spun one way or another. Sometimes I just think about the recent article from the Oregonian that made it look as though perhaps that the counties were the ones who were trying to extend this for 20 years when it was not the county. But, you know, it's hard not to read the beginning of it and say, oh, yeah, that's about right, and then read the end and say, oh, that's not right. So I am concerned about the data, and I know that this is not a decision point for us. It's an update. I recognize that. But I do have reservations, frankly, about even how the narratives are spun and the politicizing of this. It's not as though it's about the metrics any longer. It's really about how gifted one particular jurisdiction may be at creating a narrative or not, and using the data in such a way. And certainly I know I've seen a lot of things over the years in different arenas where data is not presented completely or perhaps presented incorrectly to leave someone with a false impression. I'm not pointing to any particular people or jurisdictions in this space, but we have learned of painful, it's just been extremely painful, and it hasn't stopped. So while I support the data sharing agreement, I'm going to give you an example. Here about a few weeks ago, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago in a meeting with mayors and city councilors in Clackamas County, someone in the room brought up the fact, well, Clackamas County is not sharing their data with Metro. And I thought, well, come on. I mean, I know the nuance of this and between sharing data or the disaggregate and the agreement. But the point was is that following that, right, people that were not in the room, suddenly we get 4 or 5 emails from people saying, how dare Clackamas County not share that data? And we are sharing the data as staff has presented. So there's a prime example of recent disingenuous things that have happened. And I don't like to bash other jurisdictions or other people, and I'm not going to. But I tell you, I would not be a commissioner today if it wasn't for jurisdictions not fighting one another and playing games like this. That it got me so riled up that I'm here today because of governments fighting governments or governments, criticizing other governments and not being fair or accurate about it. And really, who's the victim? It's the people we serve. All the public dollars that are being wasted, all the public time and spent. And I'd like to know, I have a simple metric, and I'll close with this. I have a simple metric I'd like to know. I would like to know how many people, staff of Clackamas County, staff of Washington County, staff of Multnomah County, and in particular, staff of Metro, are funded or working on SHS issues and items. Because it seems that I'm having a hard time understanding why there are so many staff. And when we show up, we have a very lean staff. I think a very effective staff. As lean as our staff are, we're doing a lot. And we're putting the dollars on the street. We're not staffing and growing our staff to do things that don't deliver services. So that effectiveness, I think there ought to be a metric on that. And that's a metric I'm asking for. Chair, I yield back.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Savas. Just a couple of quick comments. And Emily Klepper did a great job the other day, set a meeting up with Commissioner West and I, and it was great to really hear from staff about the data, the collection, really what's happening, and totally impressed. And the other thing that I thought really says a lot about the work that you're doing is being willing to look at yourself in the performance audit. I think that that's great. I think that, it's being transparent. It's looking, do we need to shift directions at all? And constantly reevaluating. So, I mean, that really says a lot. I think most importantly to me is that transparency piece. And I believe that the voters of Clackamas County in particular, that's who we represent, really have a right to kind of know how we're doing and how we're spending that money. County Administrator Gary Schmidt and I've had conversations about how do we do a better job educating the voters about this, the good work that we're doing. We are working on that. I wanted to shift just slightly and kind of follow up with Ben a little bit on this Metro work group meeting. And, I'm honored to say Commissioner West is serving as the vice chair. We have great representation from Clackamas County, Mayor Buck from Lake Oswego, Mayor Beatty from Milwaukee, and I can guarantee you all of us are really looking out for Clackamas County first and then as a region, because what does happen in Multnomah County or Washington County does impact us. So I think I can tell you this just from the conversations that Commissioner West and I have had and heard is, the city of Portland is $100 million short. Metro, Multnomah County saying they're $104 million when it comes to SHS dollars. And I know that they would like to see us move some of those dollars to there. And the issue I kind of think that is really important to kind of bring it back to you real quickly, and that is just that those dollars, as my understanding, and maybe you can confirm this, they're collected, the percentage we get is collected from our taxpayers. Yes. And so I hear you acknowledging that that's the case. And so I just believe if Clackamas County taxpayers are paying for this, and that's how the division is that those dollars should stay in Clackamas County. So I guess I just ask if you have any comments about that. I know that, or thoughts about that issue, but that's just kind of the highlights of kind of some of the things I've learned recently.
Chair Roberts, thank you for those comments. The only thing I would add is that the budget deficit that Multnomah County is talking about is a very small percentage made up of the SHS funds. And we all took, there was a change in the forecast, a downward change that's affecting Clackamas County to the tune of $10.5 million this budget year and next budget year. Multnomah County's was about $21 million. The rest of that is a little opaque as to what they're talking about with their funding, but it's largely one-time funding that they were relying on from other sources. So either ARPA funds or other use of, they were using one-time funding for ongoing programming under SHS, which Clackamas County has not been doing. So I think there's just a difference of approach in how we've strategically and fiscally been responsible for the funds in Clackamas County and how Multnomah County has chosen to go forward.
That's good to hear. Great job. County Administrator Gary Schmidt.
Commissioner West would like to speak.
Okay, Commissioner West.
Thank you. I'm not sure if all the commissioners are done opining and commenting on this. One thing I do want to remind residents of was, and specifically to the Multnomah County significant budget shortfall that they're projected and that Jessica Vega Peterson. Now, Jessica Vega Peterson did not talk to her fellow board and her other commissioners. She did not speak to her county Metro counterparts. She did not speak to Metro at all. She went on this press conference alone. About an hour before it, we all got a letter about her concerns. She decided to hold this press conference. It shocked the governor. It shocked all of us in the region. We were all appalled by how this came out. It was not collaborative, where she is basically asking for the region and the state and counties like ours to bail her out. And without any accountability, without any saying, hey, here's where we've gone wrong, here's where we need to make adjustments, here where we need to be more transparent. That conversation never happened. We can all remember in 2023, we have short memories, but sometimes it's hard to remember these things. But in 2023, the governor had allocated funds for the issues around homelessness, housing, and those issues. And the governor pulled back Multnomah County's money and allocated it to competent counties that were doing well, like Washington and Clackamas County. We got a chunk of those funds. And at that time, Chair Jessica Vega Peterson said publicly, oh, we didn't need that money and we were going to give it back or reallocate it anyways. And kind of scoffed at having the governor try to hold her accountable for those funds in 2023. We all remember that very clearly. And then just a few months later, short time period later, now she's announcing in her private, shocking press conference to the entire world that she's 104 million in the hole. Now, we are also looking at this and analyzing this and talking to Metro. We think it's more than that. And there's other obligations that aren't being met. And that, so it's very, very alarming and very, very concerning. So there is a lack of transparency. We look at, Chair Roberts are totally right. We look at Portland, $100+ million in their general fund hole. That's a massive number. Washington County is 20-something million in their general fund having an issue. We look at not just Multnomah County with the Supportive Housing Services $100+ million, but they're $28-30 million in their general fund also in the hole. We look at all of these different local, as we go into local budget season, it's very alarming that across the metro area, that the vast majority of the local governments find themselves in severe budget deficits. That's concerning to me. And the voters are just like, you've spent unprecedented money, unprecedented funds have been given to you. And what's going on? And so based on this conversation, based on all of this that has come to light, I would like to ask my colleagues or make a motion that we direct staff today to put forward an audit plan for Clackamas County SHS dollars moving forward to bring further transparency on how these funds are spent and how the performance of the programming is going. I think we have to lead in transparency. I think today we should direct staff to put a plan together and come back to us. I hope that, I don't know if I need to make a motion, but I hope I can have a majority of this board support in that effort today.
Chair, may I make a few comments as well?
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Schrader.
Thank you. I want to thank both of you for all the work you do. We wouldn't be as successful if it wasn't for folks like you that work for our county. We have the oldest housing authority in the state of Oregon. And my concern when all of this started to happen, as Commissioner Savas said, was that this seemed to be significant scope creep for Metro, because we have the experience and the ability with the staff that we've had here for years. I used to work with Chuck all the time, okay. And glad to work with both of you, wonderful folks, that we knew what we were doing, we needed to do it right, and I always had concerns that that scope creep with Metro was not going to be necessarily have the best outcomes. I still think it's scope creep, but I do think that we have used the money wisely. I'm fine with an audit. I might suggest, however, that maybe we talk about this under issues. I think, Gary, what's your thoughts on that, my friend?
I would like staff to give a chance to respond to Commissioner West's suggestion
Okay.
and yours, because we financially audit it anyway, but I'd like to report back what we already do, and can we have a further conversation
Okay.
about this at your next meeting? And Commissioner West, he texted me, he'd like to speak to this again, but if you'd be willing us to come back to you before you make a motion today, please.
I
for
think
further
I think that would be prudent. I don't think any of us is against this, but we got to think it through. I personally think that any audit we do will show the stellar work that we've been able to do in this county. I feel very badly about Multnomah County. It's just one of those things that I don't really even know what to say about it, except that I'm grateful that we have the folks that work with us here to move this forward in a way that has actually been functional on the ground for our folks in the, that are the most vulnerable citizens. And we are, I'll have some news about some of the things that's happening at the federal level, because NACO's been communicating with me. And I'm very concerned that we're going to be extremely constrained in the future. But we'll just hopefully wait and see what happens with that.
Great.
Thanks.
Commissioner Savas, you have a comment?
Yeah, I might, similar to what Gary's
Yeah.
suggesting, I might just say, Commissioner West, if you're listening, I would support maybe just having staff come back with some ideas and possibilities of what approaches, if you will, of how to do this. And I also asked maybe to plant the seed, Commissioner. I think what would be of great value is if this new committee actually did an audit of itself, all four jurisdictions, to really talk about really the effectiveness of the dollars overall, county by county, including Metro, who's, but all of us together. Maybe we can include Portland because they do such a significant amount of work, but maybe that could be part of the look. But I agree, but I also want to know timing. How long does it take to do an audit? I mean, I wouldn't want to have the audit come out in September and find out that a measure is on the ballot that was decided in August, for example. So I'm just concerned about the timing and the effectiveness. And lastly, one thing I did forget to say, I think we need to do a better job with our public messaging on this from PGA. I think that Metro's done an outstanding job of messaging. I'm not saying it's 100% accurate. I'm just saying that they've done a better job. And if we don't meet that on equal footing, we're not going to be able to get our message out. It's going to be, unfortunately, portrayed differently. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. County Administrator Gary Schmidt.
Yes, Commissioner West has his hand raised, and I just want to comment, yes, on the messaging, already on it with PGA. Chair Robertson made the same suggestion. Our staff will work with H3S, PGA to better message the work we're doing at the county. So we're on that, and Commissioner West would like to speak.
Commissioner West, go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Totally agree with everything that was just said. especially with the messaging piece. Thank you for that, Gary. Thank you for getting on top of that. We need to do that. Totally agree. Chair Roberts, you made a lot of comments about that recently, and they're totally spot on. My goal with bringing up the transparency thing is I agree. I don't think we're gonna make a plan today, like go do this audit today. But we need a plan. I hope that our plan reflects what the voters voted for in the IGA. There's supposed to be annual kind of accountability reports. I don't know if a performance audit annually is even realistic. It probably isn't, but we should have some. I think we need to be the county that is living up to what the voters expected and what was campaigned on. And that has absolutely not happened with the supportive housing service efforts from when it was passed. And I think we need to lead by example there. And then it gives us a lot of credibility to say, hey, y'all get on board with us with this transparency movement. And so I hope that we can just say, give us a plan. How does this equate to what the voters thought they were getting when they voted for this? How can we be an example in this and what's realistic? I think having that staff come back for us to look at the best way to do that is perfectly reasonable and the right thing to do.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. I think that we've provided some pretty clear direction, hopefully, of kind of where our next steps are. And I think there's no other action needed on this issue, but I want to thank you again for coming today and keep up the great work and look forward to hearing more about the progress the county's making on this. So with that, Gary, what do we have up next? Thank you.
Thank you.
ladies.
Yes, we'll report back to you with a audit/performance audit plan.
Yes.
At your next session. Thank you. Next is an update on your board retreat. Almost 5 weeks ago, Commissioners, you agreed to hold a board retreat. Chair Roberts and I have been working on a proposed schedule and contractors, vendors to help with that retreat. I sent you an email before the recess with an update. I want to give you the public update now and see if you have any questions or concerns with the approach. So there'll be 2 parts of your board retreat. The first will be a team building, relationship building retreat. That will be in March on Wednesday, March 12th and Thursday, March 13th. We've reserved the Stone Creek Golf Course Community Room to hold the event. It will be just for the 5 commissioners and your 2 employees, myself and Jane. The external vendor is the Executive Forum Leadership Group with 2 facilitators who Chair Roberts and I interviewed, and we were very impressed with them, and they're already on contract with us. This is totally team building, so how you work together as a team, communication norms, perhaps a working rules you'll set for each other as you meet. That's the purpose of the first retreat. There'll be some leadership assessment tests you'll take individually, and then they'll share that with you as a team to see how you work together. So that is the purpose of part 1 of the retreat. Part 2 retreat will be your strategic planning session, your first of many, to help plan your board goals and strategic plan for the upcoming years. This is scheduled for Tuesday, April 22nd. And Wednesday, April 23rd. We are going to work with Managing Results Firm, which you've worked with before, that helped you create your strategic plan almost 14 years ago. This will be focused on your strategic plan development. The plan, and Chair Roberts and I have talked with them, and we think this is a good plan, but want your feedback today. To prepare for that retreat, starting in March, will be several steps. First of which will be one-on-one interviews with each of you, commissioners, and the consultants. Focus groups with the consultants and department directors here at the county, with mayors within the county, with business leaders within the county, and with other regional leaders within the county to collect information. 2 community meetings to be held in the evenings, one in urban Clackamas County and one in rural Clackamas County, to collect feedback from the public on things they think the board should work on. And then finally, an online survey that will be open to all county residents and will push out to our CPOs and hamlets and villages and our advisory boards to also collect information and feedback for you to consider as part of your strategic planning discussion. All of this data will be collected before you meet in April 22nd and 23rd, and that data will be shared with you as information to help you as you talk about your strategic plan going forward. So I think this is a good plan, but if you have any questions or concerns with this approach, we'd love to hear it today. This is already on your schedules, and your schedules are all clear for these 2 separate sessions. But we look forward to moving on this and helping you as you move forward as a board. So happy to answer any questions you have, or Chair, if you want to add anything, if I missed.
Yeah, Gary, one of the things that I think in the team building, maybe you can touch on that. Is my understanding on the team building, we're also going to look at kind of committee assignments, kind of what commissioners want to continue in or take on more. Is that?
Yes, thank you. I forgot that. Yes, we'll discuss your committee and liaison assignments at your team building retreat. We'll revisit their board meeting days, talk about the days and times you have meetings, kind of like the overall topics we've postponed until this time. But yes, we'll have a chance for you to discuss those items as well.
Yeah, and I think it's really a great opportunity to make sure we're being good listeners in our communities, and that was one of the things that we talked about, is making sure we're listening to urban and rural and regionally some of the issues. And so I think MFR has done this a lot. I believe they're really good at it, and I think the information that will come before us, I think, will be very valuable to kind of help guide us on priorities. And I thought what was interesting is when I talked to Marv and Jeremy about this, the last time this was done, they identified one of the big priorities was potholes and road issues. And so while I know that's still important, I think a lot of the priorities that are facing our county have grown. And I think it's making sure we're really looking at ways to address that. And I think the important thing to remember too, and Gary and I have had a lot of conversations about this, is just that there's a lot to do. And what we really have to do is really have a focused vision on accomplishing these tasks and kind of moving forward. And I think that that kind of helps guide us. The other suggestion that Gary and I talked about too is perhaps I realize things change, but schedule a time for them to come back in the future to revisit where we're at, and do we need to make any changes as a group? So I think you can't always put everything in, this is the way it's going to be in stone, but if something changes in our community, it gives us a chance to come back as a board, revisit that, and see if we need to shift directions. So I would turn it over to Commissioner Savas. You have questions or comments?
Yeah, so I just want to give you over 25 years of talking to the public in a public kind of a setting, I guess. And I reckon back, sometimes I look at these approaches, and Gary, I took notes, everything you said. And I think the lost voices that often get lost are not going to be covered in any of these opportunities. So I'm not saying we dismiss that. I mean, I'm okay with doing that. I mean, I think that's informative. But what I would really like to see, and I'm hoping that, we can all agree on this, I would love to see, for example, someone like DHM do a Clackamas County specific survey that they typically do. They do awesome work, and they reach those lost voices, right? They're not part of focus. They're not going to, the average people that I have interfaced with, when I knock on doors, I've knocked on thousands of doors over the last 25 years, right? And what you hear at that doorstep of those average people, those lost voices, is quite different than what any of these things typically reveal. And so I have a little bit of reservation about having, even online surveys sometimes has got somewhat of a bias, but if we were to back that up with something solid, and that's a very reputable firm that does it in an unbiased way. I don't think we've ever done that Clackamas County specific. They do a great job regionally. But I would recommend that we do that. If we're going to make some big decisions and steer our goals, I want to make sure that those lost voices are heard and they're represented. I think DHM is the only model, or someone like them. I'm not saying DHM only, but something that does that kind of polling in a thorough way and really ask some interesting questions that tease out, the questions based, the survey is only as good as the questions are designed.
County Administrator.
Yes, if I may respond, Commissioner, and then Commissioner West has his hand raised. As you may recall, Commissioners, for the last 25 years, the board has authorized PGA to do a community survey, a scientifically based phone survey, and it's every 4 years, and this is the 4th year, and we do hire an external contractor to do that. We can certainly time that and do it right now, so you could have that data for your retreat. We can absolutely do that.
Yep. I want to, because sometimes our survey looks quite different the 4-year survey you're talking about looks quite different than the annual survey, let's say DHM does, that's hired by the metro region. And I have found the accuracy of that work, that regional work, to be spot on, really. I mean, they are really good at knowing the pulse of the community and the region. But I don't think we've ever done one like that with Clackamas County specific. And
Correct.
knowing the migration of people out of Portland, Multnomah County into Clark County and Clackamas County. And I just want to make sure we preserve the values that a number of us here value for Clackamas County and what our suburban rural life is all about versus the metro urban world that I think a lot of times this region's steered towards.
Yep. Yes, we'll look into
Great
that.
suggestion. I think that Gary sounds like he can make that happen, and I think the more information, the better. That will help us direct where we're headed. Commissioner West.
Chair Roberts and Gary Schmidt, thank you so much for your work on this. I know you guys put a lot of thought into this and trying to bring the board together in a way that's very constructive. And while doing it, hearing the thoughts and feelings and concerns of our constituents that we serve every single day. I very much appreciate it. I know publicly I had spoke to being very apprehensive about attending this event due to the looming legal issues that our colleague Commissioner Fireside is facing right now, and how that would impact our ability to come together. After a lot of thought and consideration, which I put a lot into this, I just want to make a public statement because I made one previously about my concerns. That was then reported in the media. I want to let you guys know I really value the work that you do as my colleagues, and I plan on attending these meetings. And I am sure that we may have to address some of these larger issues that I just spoke to around one of our colleagues, maybe even at this meeting. And there's a lot of other work to be done. And we are doing some huge lifts right now, policy-wise, within the region. And it really is all hands on deck to make these things happen. We've spoke to some of those things even today in our meeting. So I want to be a collaborative colleague with you, Chair Roberts, and help you be successful as a new chair. And to my close friends and colleagues, Commissioner Savas and Commissioner Schrader, I value your wisdom and how long you've been doing this. And so I know that we can come together to get good work done. I can feel that synergy developing, and other things that are outside of my control as a commissioner, we'll cross those when we need to, or deal with those things when we need to. But I do want to be collaborative with you, and I wanted to let you guys know that after a lot of thought and counsel and honest conversations, I plan on attending both of these retreats.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
And Commissioner
Schrader, yeah, I sat in the wrong seat today. Okay, Ben, I'm in your seat. I thought it looked more even. I guess I walked in. In any case, that's why I'm here. And I agree with you, Commissioner West, well said. I think that's the route we need to take as commissioners. I did want to mention something. You know, back in the day, 2003, we did complete communities. Do you guys remember that? It was pretty fun. You were there, yeah.
Every meeting.
You were there. I don't know if we have the bandwidth for something like that again, but it really worked. It was a huge success. And our colleague Michael Jordan actually was the kind of the brainchild before it, but it really was embraced by both Commissioner Kennemer and Commissioner Soa at the time. So that was like a really on-the-ground work that we did where I think people really felt heard, and we had that camaraderie. And then Commissioner Savas, what we've done with the C4 group, that was not really done to start with. That's the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, and you've brought that to new heights of functionality because we were always at war with our cities on one thing or another, but that has really brought us all together. So we do have some constructs, I think, that are out there that would be, I'm wondering if fundamentally we shouldn't just revisit some of that because it was good work. And we probably have all the data and all the information on some dusty shelf somewhere. So, anyway.
All right.
As you know, Commissioners, that led to your creation of the Hamlet and Village Program, which is a forum to help advise and give input to the
Exactly.
board.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
those are still, the hamlets
Yeah.
are still there.
I know Judy Hammerstead never forgave me, though, for the Stafford Hamlet, but we still are friends, right? We teach people to foment rebellion. That's the nature of Clackamas County. Right? Anyway.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Savas, you have another comment?
Appreciate Commissioner Schrader's comments and actually pointing back to that. If you remember, it was complete communities and concurrency, and it started actually before 2003.
Yep.
And the concurrency part, we went to work in 21 on that, 2020-21. And as a result, C4 was created in 21. The bylaws were drafted in 21, but we started that early. I remember that vividly. So it was a two-forked approach. And as you know, the relationships with the cities, and you said it spot on. I just want to highlight this. I mean, I was like an awakening. I had no idea at the time, back rolling the clock back, that there was so much friction between the cities and the county, or the cities and the cities, and the districts, and all of the stuff that was happening.
It was.
And we brought it to a new place, and I think that is one of the shining successes is the fact that we have a forum, and hopefully some of this, whether it's the mayors and councils, but the electeds, even the councilors, hopefully in this, which one I wrote down here, the focus groups, whichever one that the mayors and if there's a chance for some of the active city councilors to be engaged as well.
Right.
Would be helpful, so.
Great. All right, so we really don't need any other action on this topic, so thanks, everybody, and particularly you, Gary, for your hard work on this. And so what do we have next?
Great, thank you. Next is advisory board and commission appointments. Andrew, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, today there are 3 advisory boards or commissions for consideration by the board. The first of the 3 is the Clackamas Workforce Partnership, which currently has 1 business representative vacancy and 1 labor representative vacancy on the board due to member resignations. For the labor representative, recruitment for the position was not open to the public, as the position was open only to representatives of organizations that have demonstrated experience and expertise in labor organization per the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. The applicant is Ben Nelson to a first term ending November 30th, 2025. For the business representative, recruitment was open to the public and closed on January 1st, 2025. 1 application was received and 1 is recommended for appointment. The recommendation is Ivy Quach to a first term ending October 31st, 2026. The Board of County Commissioners could select other candidates or require further recruitment, Mr. Chair.
All right, commissioners' comments or concerns about the recommended appointment? Seeing none, may I have a motion, please?
Sure, Chair, I move to approve appointment of Ivy Quach and Ben Nelson to the Clackamas Workforce Partnership.
Second?
All right, Commissioner Savas has moved to approve the appointment of Ivy Quach and Ben Nelson to Clackamas County Partnership. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Clerk, would you do me a favor and do the poll for us?
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0, Mr. Chair. With your approval, I'll now read the next advisory board for recommendation.
Go ahead, that's great.
The second of the 3 bodies to consider today for nominations is the Library District of Clackamas County Budget Committee, which currently has 2 openings due to term expirations. The committee had a previous public recruitment that closed on April 12th, 2024. During that recruitment process, 8 applications were received. 2 applicants were appointed, and 2 applicants expressed interest in participating in the future. Desiree Thomas was one of the applicants who expressed interest in future participation. The recommendation is as follows. Desiree Thomas to a first term ending June 30th, 2026, and Alan Mateko to a second term ending June 30th, 2027. The board could select other candidates or require further recruitment, Mr. Chair.
Commissioners' comments, concerns, questions? Seeing none, again, can I have a motion, please?
Chair, I move to approve the appointment of Alan Matiko and Desiree Thomas to the Library District Budget Committee.
Second?
All right, Commissioner Savas has moved to approve the appointment of Alan Matiko and Desiree Thomas to the Library District Committee. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll for us?
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0, Mr. Chair. With your approval, I'll now move to the final advisory board for consideration today.
That'd be great.
The final is the Solid Waste Commission, which currently has 3 openings due to term expirations. Public recruitment closed on January 13th, 2025, and through this process, 8 applications were received, and 3 are recommended for appointment. 2 applicants are new, and 1 applicant is currently on the commission. The recommendation is as follows. Christina Lamar to a first term ending February 1st, 2029. Don Loomis to a first term ending February 1st, 2029. And Chad Euler to a second term ending February 1st, 2029. The board could select other candidates or require further recruitment, Mr. Chair.
All right, commissioners, comments, concerns, questions? As I look around, I see none. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the appointment of Christina Lamar and Don Loomis and Chad Euler to the Solid Waste Commission.
Second.
Right, we're moving right along. Commissioner Savas has moved to approve the appointment of Christine Lamar, Don Loomis, and Chad Euler to Solid Waste Commission. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Looking around to see if there's any further discussion. Seeing none, clerk, would you do me another favor and call poll for this?
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
The motion passes 4-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, clerk. You do a great job, by the way. Thank you, Gary. What's up next?
Sorry, the last item this morning is Commissioner Communications.
All right. Commissioner Schrader.
Okay. I do have some updates for you from the National Association of Counties. Basically, on January 16th, 2025, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development published in the Federal Register a withdrawal of a proposed rule from February 2023 titled Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing. The 2023 proposed rule incorporated much of the framework of a 2015 rule that would have required program participants to submit an equity plan to housing and urban development every 5 years. Additionally, it would have required program participants to incorporate goals and strategies from their accepted equity plans into subsequent planning documents, such as annual action plans and public housing agency plans. The National Association submitted comments that emphasized incorporating equity plan progress reports into existing housing and urban development reporting structures and to set equity plan guidelines concurrent with consolidated plans, annual plan actions, and plans in order to decrease staff and consulting costs counties face when preparing these reports. Back in the day, I did talk about this particular rule and went forward, was on a panel about it and what it would mean for counties. Another issue that's happening right now is that Secretary Turner, in a recent interview, said a cross-government effort to privatize Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will be a priority as he takes the helm of the agency. He stated that Housing and Urban Development intended to work with the Treasury Department on Congress on privatizing of the mortgage finance firms and that he would act as a quarterback of sorts in the process. The efforts to free the firms from government control would also involve Federal Housing Finance Agency, which oversees Fannie and Freddie. Recently, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, during a line of congressional questioning, said that privatizing Fannie and Freddie would likely raise mortgage rates as they would no longer be borrowing on the credit of the United States. Donald Trump's trade advisors have mentioned that they were working on plans for the reciprocal tariffs the U.S. president has vowed to impose on every country that charges duties on U.S. imports. This will likely make any current or future capital projects, whether infrastructure or housing, much more expensive while potentially accelerating inflation. the Department of Government Efficiency Team at the Department of Labor and Housing and Urban Development. As we've seen with the Treasury and the CFPB and Education Department in recent days, the Department of Government Efficiency Team will be seeking to cut within the Departments of Labor and Housing and Urban Affairs in the coming days. Their future findings could spell trouble for many grants that counties rely on, especially with housing and urban development. To that end, one department staffer also said future funding grants are now effectively on pause and that permission is needed to move ahead with anything. It's impossible to plan in this totally chaotic environment, the person said. Scott Turner, who is a former Texas lawmaker and member of Donald Trump's first administration, has been confirmed as a secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The Senate voted 55-44 on his confirmation. He did lead the White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council, which at the time actually seemed like a good idea. They did form to better coordinate federal resources in opportunity zones and distressed communities. Former Representative Lori Chavez-DeRemer had her hearing for the head of the Department of Labor, and we haven't heard yet. I suspect that will go through. Let's see here now. Okay. I think that's about all I have for this. There's much more. I think the concern that I have, the National Association of Counties is a bipartisan, politically neutral organization. I do want to make that clear to folks. It really is, but some of the things that we depend on in order to do our job here at counties, I'm very worried it's in jeopardy, and it will hurt some of the most vulnerable in our communities. I hear from a lot of people from both sides of the aisle on this. We always agree to disagree on things, but I am extremely worried about the impact it's going to have on our national economy as well as the economy of Clackamas County at this point. I don't think that we can continue to rely on dollars from the federal government at this point in time to do some of the work we do. And I hope that we have some more reasonable discussions in the future about how things are heading right now, particularly with the work that we have to do at the county level, and the fact that we all took oaths to support the Constitution of the United States of America. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I will be brief. I'm going to try to make a point here today when I give you my JPACT transportation update. And again, it'll be very condensed. I might elaborate more on Thursday. No, it won't be a Thursday. That's right. So here it is. So last Thursday, there was a review of what's called the Regional Flexible Funds Allocation for investments in the metro region. Metro is the regional government. JPACT is the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, has a federal designation. I want to give you the update. We all have projects in the region. No secret, this is my point here, that if you look at the transportation assets that are in the region, you'll see that Clackamas County is woefully behind. And that's not by accident, that's not by will. That's unfortunately been the fact that some of our other neighbors that have bigger population and more political influence seem to win the day. And our region falls farther and farther and farther behind. For years now at JPACT, I've been trying to argue for regional balance in those investments. And I guess I'm talking today more to Chair Roberts than I am to anyone on this dais here today, because Martha knows this all too well. We have a $15 million project, the Sunrise Gateway project, which is just really more planning and project development, pretty straightforward. Washington County has TV Highway. It's about a $30 million ask, and 82nd Avenue has a $30 million ask, and Multnomah County has a multi-million-dollar ask for the Burnside Bridge, which was a surprise, and now a new development that's happening, is the Montgomery Park. So if you add all those together, you'll find out that our little $15 million project is adding to this proportionality issue, and we're getting less invested in. I argue between all the other projects that are happening, Interstate Bridge, the briefing I got yesterday moving forward on the Rose Quarter investment, all the other monies that are going in, there are billions of dollars that are going to the north of the region and little to nothing happening in our part of the region. So just making you aware that this RFA vote, RFFA vote will be in March, and we'll see if our project is taking a severe haircut and reduced, or maybe reduced to the point it becomes non-functional, or if they'll leave us whole, recognizing that the disproportionate investment and the fact that we're only asking for a little, that maybe some of the other players take more of a haircut than us. But again, this will prove out once again, and I'll report back in March as to that outcome. Chair, I yield back.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner West?
Thank you, Chair. Been very, very busy working with the region with the Supportive Housing Service Work Group that is chaired by both myself and by Metro President Lynn Peterson. It's been very collaborative. I've enjoyed working with President Peterson, and we're really trying to figure out how to get the region together to right the ship a little bit and to be clear about how we want to move forward, how we rebuild trust with the voters, talking about fundamental and structural changes in how we approach housing, homelessness, substance abuse disorder, behavioral health issues, all of those things that seem to be somewhat intractable in our region. But in having really honest and difficult conversations, the meeting did open yesterday with pretty strong opinions from not just myself, but leading the way was President Peterson from Metro. And it was unexpected that we'd have to address Chair Jessica Vega Peterson's press conference. But I think that it happened on Friday, kind of sent a lot of us local electeds in this space reeling over the weekend. And then myself and Chair Peterson did address those directly. We spent a good chunk of the beginning of the meeting, which wasn't on the agenda, not just giving our thoughts and opinions about it as co-chairs, but also allowing other local electeds to ask questions to what's next, how do we move forward, how does this impact everybody, and try to address those issues. And it is also an honor and really great that Chair Roberts, that you are also there representing Clackamas County. So I want to make sure that that is recognized. And initially, I guess to my constituents or our constituents in Clackamas County, I wanted to be clear with all of you about what my message was regarding the kind of alarming news, the shocking news that out of Multnomah County. There was an OPB article that I think did a really good job articulating and painting a picture about what the vibe was in the meeting last night. And I do firmly believe that if we want to set a new and positive direction for the SHS measure, it's impossible to do that without really understanding how do we get off track and where and how do we get this much needed course correction. And I think the public has every right to be really frustrated because of the lack of SHS oversight, the lack of accountability. We spoke to that earlier this meeting. We're trying to be an example and leader in that in Clackamas County. But this has really been something that's happened over the last 5 years. And many people are wondering why we should give more money to what they perceive as incompetence in largely unaccountable government organizations. Why should they trust those to solve the homelessness crisis when they may be culpable in exasperating it because of poor planning, lack of transparency, harmful policy initiatives? And it's hard to rebuild that trust once we lose it from voters. And polling shows that we're losing that trust, or we have lost it. So we have a lot of work to do. I think it was clearly articulated that myself and many other local electeds were deeply disappointed in Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson's announcement on Friday. She did not collaborate with her fellow commissioners before she made that surprise press conference. The metro area counties like Clackamas and Washington, or even her own county, she didn't collaborate or give a heads up to the city of Portland. The governor was caught off guard in the state of Oregon. And during that press conference, there was no accountability. There was zero accountability for the budget shortfall that they face and how they got there. And it was a shock. And it was definitely a shock to the system. It was, as quote, President Peterson, it was jarring to her. And I feel the same way. And, you know, I made some pretty strong statements. It's my opinion that there's been a chronicity within the failures of Multnomah County. I think that's an inescapable truth right now, considering that when you compare them not just to Clackamas County and Washington County, it's pretty glaring. And in Clackamas, we have worked really hard with our partners for the last 4 years to build a regional homeless service program, to build out a care continuum, to see those living in our streets and address their issues that cause them to be homeless, and to provide a pathway to self-sufficiency and to wholeness. And we have been very intentional and maybe did it a little bit differently, but our success right now is undeniable. We have a lot of work to still do. We have more to learn, but I'm proud of the work Clackamas has done. And I think that's also why I'm the co-chair here, is to kind of bring a different thought process and a different voice to the region. In Clackamas, we created a balanced housing continuum to address street level homelessness, and we offered housing recovery options. Like I said, we have more work to do, but our system is working and we are always looking to improve it and be accountable to the voters. And it's just really challenging request by Chair Jessica Vega Peterson to ask for Clackamas County taxpayers, Washington County taxpayers, and the state as a whole to bail them out. Right now, Portland and Multnomah County have the highest marginal tax rates in the United States. To be truthful, if money were the problem, we've already would have solved the homelessness crisis, but it's not about money. It's about structural changes and competence that need to happen, and accountability. I think that we can do better, and I think we have to start having that honest conversation. We can't just blame Multnomah County and be very clear about this. We all have to be accountable, and I think Clackamas County even today showed how we want to lead in that. And I made this statement last night. I made this statement on my X account, and I'll say it again. I am absolutely calling for an immediate independent performance and forensic audit of Multnomah County's budget or of the entire supportive housing service system as a whole, including Metro and all of us. We have to show where that money has gone and if it's been effective or not. And we have to start having these tough conversations. And we need those reassurances and we need some accountability before we can engage any further with the request of Multnomah County and their asks. If we want people to actually start trusting us again, we need to have critics as part of this accountability process. I think me being the co-chair of the work group and having Clackamas County as a strong voice is a really good sign. And I'm hopeful because of that. To me, that's movement. And if we want people to trust us again, what comes out of this process, we need to ask some of these really hard questions up front. And otherwise, if it doesn't really matter how much we scream about accountability, how many audits we call for, or how many North Stars we plan and write up on the board with our magic markers and gush about, we have to start showing results. We're running out of time and we're at a critical point. And so that's a lot of what happened yesterday. We talked about the data. We talked about that earlier in this meeting, so I won't rehash the data piece. We also talked about what are those North Stars that have been successful across North America. Some of the ones that we modeled our system after are going to be talked about at Metro, including Alberta, Canada, New Haven for Hope in San Antonio, Texas. There's some issues at Denver, Colorado, and there's other little pockets of excellence that we want to maybe start to look to change structurally how we've done things with the supportive housing service tax going forward and how we've implemented those. So we're starting to really maybe get that first step to look outside of our own echo chamber in Oregon. And I'm heartened by that. I hope we can really show some leadership there and have some movement and pivot in a different direction. And so that's all happening. I'm excited by that, spending a lot of time on this. I'm in Washington DC right now. Commissioner Schrader, I think you bring up some really amazing points and some concerns we have at the county level with where the federal government's going and how it impacts local governments like ours.
Yeah.
That just at the end of the day have to do good local work, fix and solve problems. And so while we're here, I'm hoping we have the opportunity to continue to lobby the current administration, find common ground with leaders here, so that we don't have counties left behind anywhere in the country.
That is
And
the
think
way
there's
to
room-
go.
I
Thank you.
think there's room to do that, Commissioner. I think that we can collaborate. People like me and you can collaborate and find that common ground and make sure that we're taking care of our other American citizens and Oregonians with our sphere of influence. And I'm excited to do that work with you here in the upcoming week in the nation's capital. And learning and working more with NACO as a whole to make sure counties are represented. We need that more than ever right now. And I think you articulated those concerns very well today, and I stand with you in those concerns. And so that's what's going on. I once again, I look forward to how things develop in the near future. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of people to help, and these are not easy times, but we'll get there. We'll do it
Yeah.
together. And yeah, that's all I have, Chair. Thank you for allowing me to
Chair,
articulate and kind of
Can
talk
I
about
just
what
respond
we've
real
been
quick,
doing
Chair?
with supportive housing services.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Schrader
I
wanted
just want to thank you, Chair, for letting me. Thank you, Ben, for that insight. I think we know how to work collaboratively. I love working with you. This is not a partisan thing at all, and I think that's why NACO is so critically important to us, because we're probably the closest to the ground, other than our cities as well, to what the needs are of folks here. So I really look forward to joining you in NACO. I know Chair Roberts, you're going to be there too. My point is just to give information to people that we all want to be financially and fiscally responsible. That's part of, again, what we need to do as stewards of the public dollars. I think that I think we need to make changes. That's not what I'm worried about, but we have to make change without so much haste to it. We have to think about what all the alternative consequences of how we manage this, and I'm really looking forward to working with you on it. Thanks for being my friend. And thank you all for being my friend. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Just a couple quick comments. I will say it's been incredibly busy. And just a few highlights. Met with the City of Molalla, the Mayor Scott Kaiser, his County Administrator Dan Huff, and his Deputy Administrator. And we talked about some of the concerns they had, homeless behavioral health unit, some concerns about that. I shared it with Kimberly DeSantis, who's helping me work, really get back to Malal and some concerns they have. While I was there, I just also want to tout their housing market out there is doing great. Also, they have industrial land, and I know businesses are looking at Clackamas County. I'd strongly encourage you to look at the City of Malala. They're doing amazing things. One of the things that was really helpful, they had some questions about aging services. So Gary, thank you. We had H3S present on that. I provided some information. I think that we also had discussions about helping promote some of those resources and how to contact them. Next, Commissioner Schrader and I attended the VFW 1324 100-year anniversary in the city of Oregon City. Mayor McGriff was there. Senator Mark Meek was there. He also sang the national anthem. As always, he does an amazing job. Huge community turnout for really an amazing service that is provided to many of our veterans. I just wanted to also kind of give a shout out to them that a lot of our deploying National Guard folks from the Sheriff's Office some time ago, and I know they help other veterans throughout the county, but helping support families while our military folks are deployed overseas, stepping up in countless ways over the holidays, and the list goes on and on. So just a big thanks to VFW 1324. Also attending AOC College, Association Oregon County College, lots of discussions about what's happening around the state, meeting some other colleagues, and a great opportunity to kind of learn some of the issues around our region. And just to quickly follow up, really with Commissioner West, a lot of hard work going on with SHS. I can just tell you, I want to thank staff. They're working hard to bring me up to speed. It's we're getting there, and it's really important, these SHS dollars that support our county and how we put those to the best use. So thanks to Commissioner West on all his help there on that. And I wanted to also give a shout out to Commissioner Savas. We did and several hour kind of update on the history of North Clackamas parks. We then did a big park tour. I wouldn't necessarily call them all parks, maybe some dog parks along the way.
Very small parks.
Some small parks, and I think the point I learned on that kind of excursion is the importance to save green space and to make sure we're really looking at what we can to have parks in those areas. So thanks to Commissioner Savas for his hard work on that. We also visited the Concord Community Center. Amazing building. The grand opening's coming soon. So thanks to my colleagues and others that have been working on that long before I got here. And then just kind of in closing, also, as Commissioner West and Commissioner Schrader said, I'm joining the two in NACO. While I'm there, part of my hope is to join Casey Gwinn, the National Family Justice Center Alliance, and help rally support here for dollars back in Clackamas County. And last but not least is just a comment on the windstorm. I was like probably many of you had a little bit of storm damage, but it's once again, you'll hear me say this a lot, is, you know, it's incumbent we look to our neighbors to help support seniors and people that might have limbs down, and just to help each other. So that is my short version of things that were going on. So if there's no other concerns from my colleagues, I'll conclude today's administrative issues and updates, and we will convene back at 1:30 on policy session, budget committee quarterly updates. So thank you all who joined us, and have a good few minutes off.